So the question for this video is, what are the requirements for Singapore Company Incorporation? Please explain the requirements for both Singapore residents as well as for the foreigner. So let's move ahead. So the requirements for registering or incorporating a Singapore company are as follows. You need to have a minimum one shareholder who can be either a resident in Singapore or a foreigner. Singapore laws allow 100% shareholding to be taken by a foreign resident. Since this is allowed, whether the shareholder is resident or foreigner doesn't matter. You need to have minimum one locally resident director. Any additional local or foreign directors are allowed, but minimum one local resident director is required. Local resident director normally means a Singapore citizen or a Singapore permanent resident who is ordinarily residing in Singapore. That means his habitual place of stay is in Singapore. So if there is a person who is a Singapore citizen but who has settled in say Australia, then in that case he will not qualify for this requirement. The next requirement is to have a company secretary who is also locally resident in Singapore. Foreigners as a company secretary are not allowed. There is one more rule, that if the company has only one director, single director, then he cannot act as a secretary. There need to be at least two separate persons. There need to be at least two directors or a separate director and a secretary. And lastly, you need a registered address for your company, which cannot be a post office box address. So any commercial address, or if approval is taken, the home address is also allowed to be used as a registered address for the company. Now, having explained this, I am going to show you some scenarios to make it more clear. So here we are taking example of a resident person registering a company in Singapore. So this single person is taking the shareholding and as well as taking the directorship of the company. Since he himself is a resident in Singapore, the local director requirement is met here and he doesn't need to do anything special. However, since there is only one director, he cannot appear as a secretary of the company. So in this case, he needs to get services from somebody else. Maybe he can appoint his family member, wife as a secretary, or if he is engaging a professional firm, the firm will automatically provide him a secretary from their staff. Now the next example I am showing is, let's say that two foreigners from India are incorporating a company in Singapore and they are becoming the director as well as shareholders of the company. So there are two foreign directors and two shareholders. Since in this case there is no local director, they will either need to get their friend to act as a resident director, or the corporate secretarial firm they are engaging can provide them a nominee director. Now in this case, since there are three directors, the same local person who is acting as a director can also act as a secretary of the company, or the corporate secretarial firm that is providing these incorporation services can also provide somebody else to act as a secretary of the company. Now let's have a look on one more scenario where a foreign corporate, that is a company in some other country, is incorporating a company in Singapore as a wholly owned subsidiary. So in this case, the shareholding, 100% shareholding is taken by this foreign company and it has nominated one of its employee to act as a foreign director of the company. Since the local director requirement is not met here, the company will need to avail the nominee director service here, and that person can also act as a secretary because there are two directors on the board. If he is engaging a corporate secretarial firm, then in that case the CSP firm will provide maybe another secretary. So I hope this video has clarified the requirements for company registration to you.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.